Hallo du wundervolle Seele und herzlich willkommen zum Podcast Mindful Well Healing, dem Podcast, bei dem es um die Themen rund um Medialität, Spiritualität, Gesundheit und Heilung geht. Ich bin Imke Hausner, die Frau hinter Mindful Well Healing und freue mich riesig, dass du dir die Zeit nimmst, diesen Podcast anzuhören oder anzuschauen. Diesen Podcast habe ich schon vor einer ganzen Weile aufgenommen und er kommt jetzt erst raus, weil wir uns ganz lange Gedanken darüber gemacht haben, ob und wie wir ihn übersetzen und sind jetzt dazu übergegangen, ihn einfach so zu belassen, wie er ist. Er ist auf Englisch und ist mit Dr. Bradley Nelson. Falls du Dr. Nelson nicht kennst, er hat den Emotion Code, den Body Code entwickelt, Bücher darüber geschrieben und hat, wie gesagt, eine ganz wundervolle Methode ins Leben gerufen. Genau darüber sprechen wir in diesem Podcast und ich wünsche dir jetzt ganz viel Freude beim Zuhören. Ich freue mich so sehr, dass du auch heute wieder zuschaust bei meinem Podcast und du siehst, heute habe ich Live-Gäste da und zwar Dr. Bradley Nelson und seine Frau Jean. Und ich werde jetzt gleich erstmal die beiden begrüßen. And I'm so excited to have you both here today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
To speak with me about trapped emotions and that you have the time to come to my house and time to talk in my podcast. Welcome.
We're grateful to be here. Thanks for having us. You have a beautiful spot here in the world.
Yeah, it's very lovely with the nature there.
I love all the birds that are singing outside.
Yeah, in the morning it's very loud when they start with their songs. At first, I want to introduce Dr. Nelson. I want to do it in German, so I haven't to translate it later.
Yeah.
Er hat 17 Jahre lang in seiner eigenen Praxis als Chiropraktiker und Arzt für Energiemedizin gearbeitet. Er hat den Emotion Code erfunden und hat auch darüber ein Buch geschrieben. Ich habe es jetzt auf Englisch gelesen. Er ist Pionier der holistischen Medizin, ein international gefragter Sprecher, Therapeut und auch Autor. Er hat inzwischen auch den Body Code entwickelt und er hat schon in über 1000 Radioshows gesprochen, um den Emotion Code publik zu machen, weil es eine wundervolle Methode ist, um sich selbst zu helfen. When I read your books a couple of years ago, one part of mine thought, wow, that's fantastic. And one part talked to me, that cannot be so easy. Because I'm a pharmacist and in the university and later when I worked with patients or clients, I've learned a healing must be very difficult, very hard and very strong.
Right.
And so I couldn't believe a long time that it can be so easy, but it is. And I'm so grateful that you found a method that can people use by themselves. Mm-hmm. How did you find it?
Yeah. Well, it was a process really of many years of working with patients in my own practice and trying to figure out what was wrong with them. And learning everything that I could learn from everywhere that I could learn it, from ancient sources and modern sources, and I whatever I came across I would use, and whatever worked I would continue to use, and things that didn't work I wouldn't use anymore. And gradually as time went on, it became not more difficult, but actually more simple.
Wow.
In the beginning, it was more complicated.
It really was kind of like a puzzle coming together.
Yeah. Wow.
It really was. There would be pieces that he would learn along the way, and we would figure out one piece at a time, and then things kind of came together.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Because in my work, I have that understanding too, that emotions are the main part of a sickness or illness or symptom. But I thought that these emotions are affected on the biochemistry.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I never asked myself that question, why? And I've read about frequencies in your books, and that's so interesting. Can you
Yeah.
explain a bit?
Well, if you think about it, I mean, if you look at your hand looks solid and it makes a nice sound when you hit it on the desk. But in reality, if you were to magnify your hand with a big enough microscope at over 1 million times magnification, eventually you'd be looking at an individual atom. And if you look in the atom, there's really nothing in there. It's just empty space. There's really nothing solid about anything. These bodies of ours, even though to us they seem solid, it's almost more of an illusion than anything else, because our bodies really are more of a force field than a solid. So even though we have weight, quantum physicists recently made a calculation that if you could take all the empty space out of everyone's bodies on Earth, you could fit all 7.8 billion people on Earth into a little box the size of a sugar cube. Right?
Wow. Wow.
It would be crowded. Yes. But you could do it theoretically.
Wow. That's unbelievable, you know.
It's mind-blowing.
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
mind-blowing,
Yeah.
sure. Wow. Wow. The emotions, the trapped emotions have effects in
Mhm.
our body. What kind of effects can it have when you have trapped emotions?
Well, we've seen everything, haven't we?
We really have. Yeah, there are physical effects where there's malfunction and pain in the body. And there are emotional effects and mental effects where you sabotage your behavior, your choices. There are so many kinds of effects.
90% of all the physical pain
Yeah.
that people have is actually due to emotional baggage, which is an unbelievable statement, but we see it over and over and over again. We've been seeing it for over 30 years now. But also things like depression and anxiety and phobias and panic attacks and PTSD and
Wow. Yeah. I've
eating
read it.
disorders. Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-sabotage of all kinds. Plus the fact that in the work that we've done over the last 30 plus years, every disease process that we have seen has had an emotional component.
Mm-hmm.
Every disease.
I think so too. Yeah.
And so, it's been such a fascinating journey because, when you think about someone that has been diagnosed with some major illness, and you look at the things that they're doing for that illness, they may be taking all the right nutrition, and they might be exercising and getting lots of sunlight and so on. Meanwhile, the emotional energy from their years of abuse or being bullied or their divorce or whatever is at the heart of it, and it's like a little radioactive problem that if they don't address, and when I say radioactive, I'm just speaking metaphorically, that it's a dangerous. These trapped emotions are dangerous. Every trapped emotion is like a little ball of energy from about the size of a baseball to about the size of a softball, and these can inhabit our bodies. And they can lodge anywhere in the body, and wherever they lodge, they tend to have this distorting effect on the normal energy field of the body. And when you distort the energy field, of course, you're ultimately distorting the body itself. So wherever one of these trapped emotions lodges, it will tend to interfere with the normal chemical reactions in that area to some degree, blood flow, lymph flow to some degree. And the flow of acupuncture meridian energy through that area, and probably with other things that we don't normally talk about, like the piezoelectric conduction of the fascial tissue in the body. There's a lot going on, but what you have to understand is that the body itself is really nothing more than just a very complex energy field. When you realize that that's the truth of our existence, and then you realize that emotional energies can become lodged in that energy field and disrupt it, then it makes sense that you need to find these and get rid of these, because they're going to cause problems for you sooner or later.
Right. And not only do they affect the physical body, but the energetic body as well.
Yeah.
The spirit of the person. is affected.
And that's touched me a lot because I'm working as a mediumship too.
Mm.
And I speak sometimes with died souls.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting to see about the energy. Yeah, you feel it. You feel that there's a soul or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can feel trapped emotions too. If you take your hand like this and you blow on your hand with the faintest breath that you can just barely register, that's what these feel like. They feel like kind of a faint wind. And so the subconscious mind is the key really to figuring out what these things are and where they are in the body and what they're doing to you. And to be able to find trapped emotions and release them is a really simple process using the emotion code. Oh, let me borrow this for one moment.
I think you want the English one?
Oh, that's fine. This is fine. Yeah. Just to show everybody, we have a chart of emotions that we use. And by asking the subconscious mind questions, you can very quickly zero in on what the specific emotion is.
Yeah.
And the subconscious mind of each person is vastly intelligent, and it remembers every face you've ever seen in a crowd and everything you've ever eaten or tasted or touched or smelled. And it knows what emotional baggage you have. And so by asking the subconscious mind questions and getting answers through different forms of muscle testing, the body will respond with strength for yes and weakness for no. You can use a pendulum or any kind of dowsing device. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can get those answers really rapidly. And so most people can find and release a trapped emotion from their body in less than a minute once they learn how to do the process.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very rapid. And that's one of the reasons why we're experiencing this explosive growth all over the world. And it's just this sustained growth that goes on and on and on all over, is because people find that it's easy to do. Kids can do it.
Mm-hmm.
People find that it works on their animals. It works on their pets. It works on their kids and their spouse and their grandparents. And it just works.
Yeah.
And so we're really grateful to be on this mission to bring this work into the world. We're on a mission. It's our job.
And that's so great. And you told animals can have trapped emotions too.
Yes.
And what's very interesting, we can have trapped emotions from generations far away. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how many generations it can be?
Well, I think we've seen them back 30 generations.
Wow.
Haven't we?
You had one that time that was, I think, 47 generations. Is the furthest
I
back.
don't remember that one, but maybe.
Yeah, that was affecting a tooth.
Okay.
So that's about as far back as we've seen one go personally. But I mean, theoretically, they could go back further. Usually they'll go back a few generations, sometimes 10 or 20. I had an experience, actually, one of the most powerful healing experiences that I've had was a couple of years after the Emotion Code book came out. I asked my daughter, Natalie, to work on me. And she was about 1,000 miles away where she lived. And so she said she would work on me right then. So I hung up the phone. And so she tunes into me remotely and starts to find out what's going on. Now, this is part of what we teach in the Emotion Code and the Body Code, is how you can tune in and work with someone at a distance. It's just distance healing. And the first thing that she found on me was that I had a trapped emotion of hopelessness that I had actually passed to her when she was conceived. We receive these inherited energies sometimes from ancestors. And I had gotten this from my father, she found, when I was conceived. And then she kept testing and found that my father had gotten it from his mother, who got it from her mother, and it kept going in the mother's line, and it went back 22 generations.
Wow.
So back to the 1400s. And all of a sudden, my daughter later told us that suddenly she felt the presence of this woman standing right next to her. And it was the woman that this started with. The original...
the person who felt the hopelessness
exactly.
originally, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
And our daughter could feel this woman's emotions. She could feel how desperate she was to have this energy released from her posterity. And she could also feel how overwhelmed with gratitude she was that this was being done. So my daughter, she released that trapped emotion, and she could feel it release from that woman, and it rippled through and released from all those ancestors all the way back. That's one of the exciting things about this.
You can imagine how many hundreds of people were affected by that hopelessness.
Going back to the 1400s.
Wow, yeah.
So that was powerful. And it had a huge effect on both our daughter and me, because for her, she's an artist, and one of the most amazing artists that we know. And but she'd never really painted anything or really drawn anything until that emotion of energy, that hopelessness was released, that ancient energy, really. And then about a year later, June and I went to Seattle, where she lived, and there was an art showing, and all this artwork was coming out of her, all this art. It was amazing. And I mean, really, she truly is an incredibly gifted artist.
She really is,
just
yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, some people are gifted, and she is gifted, because you see the things that she draws and paints, and it just takes your breath away. You just think, how is that even possible that a human being can do that? Well, and for me, the experience that I had was that all of my life, I had this background music, if you will, this background feeling in my mind of hopelessness. And
which made it very difficult to write the book.
Yeah, very difficult.
Okay.
This was 2 years. This
Yeah.
was 2 years after the book had been written.
Right. And he used to listen to motivational tapes every day before he would start writing.
I had
just to be able to get in the mindset that he was actually able to think about writing.
It's true. And when I was writing the emotion code, I remember very well, if anybody would have asked me to describe in one word how that book project felt, without any hesitation, I would have said it feels hopeless, but I'm continuing.
Wow.
But every day I'd have to listen to positive things to try to overcome the inertia of this hopeless feeling. And then all of a sudden, when my daughter released that for me, it was like this factory in my mind suddenly shut off. And that feeling that I had never recognized before, but had been with me every waking moment of my life, was suddenly gone. And it was only at that moment that I understood it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've had that my whole life. Yeah, it was just a stillness suddenly, instead of this little hopeless music. It was an incredible thing. It was one of those powerful experiences I've had with healing.
Wow.
And so
I have goosebumps.
Yeah. So if you think about your ancestors, and what did they go through? Did they go through difficult things?
Yeah.
And I think all of our ancestors went through difficult things at some point or another. And so those energies are often passed down to us, so that our lives are not only a product of our own emotional baggage, but also that emotional baggage that we're carrying for them. But the beautiful thing is that when that baggage is removed, it removes from them as well. And we've seen that over and over and over again. And so what we believe is that when we die, that spirit that is within us, that's who we really are, that separates from the physical body, and it lives on, and those ancestors live on, and they're close to us. And we personally believe that when we get answers to prayer and things like that, when we receive a little warning voice, or we get a feeling, or if we're trying to get an answer about something and the answer flows into us, that's coming from those ancestors, we think, that are around us, that care about us, and that we just don't see. So sometimes we do see.
Yeah.
I haven't ever seen one, but
sometimes I see them when I work with my clients.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they stand often behind them.
Yeah.
A lot of people stand behind
Mm-hmm.
one person, a lot of died people, or the we say spirit team.
Mm-hmm.
To
The
these,
spirit team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
and it's very, 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 very interesting to see the guardian angels and
Mm-hmm.
the died.
Well, good
people.
for you. So you're
Yeah.
one of those people that has that kind of a rare gift, but I think as time goes on, more and more of us will have that gift. And I think it's really just our disbelief that keeps us from being able to see these things, because these spirits, I think, are all around. It's just they're a slightly different dimension than ours, but I think they're totally aware of us and what we're doing, and they want to help. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's cool. Spirit team.
Who
I like
would be
that.
more
I'm gonna remember that one.
interested, right?
Yeah, who would care more about us than them? Grandma, right?
Yeah.
Or great grandpa.
Yeah, sure. Do you think when we work on the trapped emotions and help our generations behind us, that has to do something with the karma? Can the karma change? What do you think?
Well, I think that I think it totally can, and I think it has a lot to do with that. I think that when we, for example, if you think about it, they've done studies with animals about this, and so if we extrapolate on those studies a little bit, think about it, if you're a water buffalo, and you're wandering around and you get to a certain place in the savannah and you're attacked by lions and somehow miraculously you manage to get away, you'll probably have some emotional baggage about that experience. Maybe panic or fear or dread or horror or terror. And so that emotional energy then you will very likely pass down to your posterity. If you have a baby water buffalo, you'll pass that at conception. And what will the end result of that will be water buffalo in your line now. They won't know why, but they will not go to that area. They will avoid that spot. Now think about it this way. Imagine, let's say that your 8th great grandfather was thrown into the poorhouse, or maybe he was thrown into prison because he couldn't pay his bills or something. And so maybe he developed a trapped emotion of grief related to money. And so now here you are, and you're carrying that baggage as well. And so deep in your subconscious mind, you have this same energy about money. And you wonder here in 2022, why you're having such a hard time making a living and why money is such a problem for you. And it can be from that old baggage, those ancient emotional energies. And we've seen some really amazing things happen, haven't we?
Yeah. And we've heard about studies too. There was a study done with animals. Do you remember the details about that one?
Well, there was a famous study done with mice where what they did is they... I
believe they had 14 generations.
Yeah. There were 14 generations. They found in lower animals that inherited trauma would somehow be passed down. And of course, science right now is trying to figure out the mechanism and how this works. But it was interesting. The study that they did with mice originally is they had mice that would when they would smell the scent of cherry blossom, they would receive a shock. And so then they found that the offspring would also, when they would smell the cherry blossom scent, they would have a kind of a panic reaction, right? And so then they thought, well, maybe it's because they're all in the same building. And so what they did is they took semen from male mice that had this experience with the shock and the cherry blossom, and they impregnated female mice that were on the other side of this research facility at this university, as I recall. And those mice had never been shocked, had never smelled cherry blossom scent before, but somehow those offspring of those mice that had been impregnated with this semen also had now suddenly this fear that was associated with the cherry blossom scent. And so they're trying to figure out scientifically what's going on, but it happens on an energetic level. It happens on a quantum level. And that's what the emotion code really is it's the simplest method it's a practical application really of quantum physics, where anybody can learn how to find these energies that are stuck in the body and release them, and kids can do it.
And it just takes a couple minutes, if that, right?
It's super simple, super easy. And it's a gift that we believe has really come into the world. It's a divine gift. It's come into the world at this time because the world really desperately needs it.
Yeah.
And, we think the earth is kind of in a state of labor, trying to bring forth this new world where the earth is going to be finally able to rest from all the war and everything else. People are going to be living from their hearts. And there's work we have to do to get there.
Yeah.
And you see all of these crazy things going on in the world, all of these control mechanisms and the Great Reset and all this. And that's all part of the dark side's attempt to stop this new world from coming into being, but they can't stop it. It's already happened. Mm-hmm. So that's how we look at it.
Yeah, me too. And I'm so thankful for that, because the energy from the earth is growing up higher and higher.
Yeah.
And so it's a good sign.
It's an exciting time to be alive. It really is.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see some dark things though first.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, we know how it's going to turn out.
Yeah. In your book, I've read an example for an trapped emotion, and it came not from the pregnancy time, not from the prenatal time. Mm-hmm. It came before an incarnation.
Yeah, before conception.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Before conception.
Yeah. Well, how that happened was how I came across this was many years ago. I was working on a patient and trying to identify this trapped emotion and when it had occurred. And so I'm asking questions and testing this patient using muscle testing. Did this occur earlier than 10 years old? Yes. Did it occur earlier than 5 years old? Yes. Earlier than birth? Yes. Okay. During the time in the womb? No. Oh, okay. Was this inherited? No. So what happens is sometimes when we're conceived, we already have emotional energies, trapped emotions that we bring with us into this world. And, there are lots of different opinions and ideas about where those come from, but we just call them preconception trapped emotions. And they may come from a past life. We think that my own personal opinion is that they're definitely coming from some earlier point in your existence. We happen to believe that we have always existed without beginning, and that we won't have an end either. Our physical bodies will have an end, but we believe that we're going to go on forever and ever. So yeah, those are fairly rare, really, to come across those, but they can be incredibly powerful. So yeah, preconception emotions, those are interesting.
They often
touched
have
me a lot.
They often have to do with a fear or a grief of coming into this world. Yeah. And you wonder how much we know about what our life here on earth is going to be like,
Mm-hmm.
We think maybe we get a little preview.
Oh my gosh. I have a question from a listener from my podcast, mm-hmm. and this fits a bit here, because she is asking, when is it at home such a beautiful place? And why we are here on earth for terrible and sorrowed experiences. What do you think? Why do you have to do this here on earth when it's so lovely and peaceful and lightful, where our soul is at home?
Well, we're here to grow and to learn and to gain experience, really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to gain experience and to grow, you really do have to struggle.
Yeah, that's true.
Think about a tree that is growing up in out in the middle of a field, where it has to bear up against all the wind and all of the rain, and it can become a very, very strong tree. Mm-hmm. And that's how I see it for us. We're here in this world, and we're in a perfect testing environment, really, for our souls. Mm-hmm. What are we going to choose? Are we going to choose light? We're free to choose light or dark, right? Are we going to do good works or evil things? It's up to us. God, our Father, doesn't force us in any way. We're here to choose for ourselves. But whatever we choose, we're going to learn, aren't we? If we choose good things, we learn the consequences of that and how those are positive. if we make bad choices, and we all make bad choices, right, from time to time, and we learn, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
We learn. You reach out, you touch a hot stove. Well, you might only do that once, but you learn the consequences of that, right?
Yeah.
And so I think eventually what we end up learning in our lives is that the guidance that has come down to us from people like Jesus and Moses and people that gave us guidelines to live by, that if we follow those guidelines, we end up actually being much happier. And to me, and I think to Jean too, it's all about vibration, really. And when you talk to people that when you talk about being ascended and ascending in your vibration, what does that really mean? Well, to us, it's all about unconditional love, right? And when people die and they go to the other side and they come back, and sometimes they do, right? And we get to hear from them. When they have their life review on the other side, they're never ever asked how big their bank account was, or how fancy their house was, or how expensive their car was, right? Nothing about that. Instead, the number one question seems to be, how much love were you able to develop for your fellow beings on the earth, right? And how much knowledge were you able to gain? I think those are the only things you take with you, right, when you die. And those seem to be the really important things. So I think that there's a very, very powerful truth in there that as we shed ourselves from all of these lower vibrations and we try to ascend into a state where we're really giving love and really totally accepting not only everybody, but everything that's going on in our lives.
And feeling grateful for whatever it is.
For whatever it is
all
that comes
at the same
along.
time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even the challenges that are so awful and hard to go through at times.
Exactly right.
But if we can be grateful for those things, then we really can benefit the most.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And the interesting thing about it is, you see, the way we look at trapped emotions, everybody has trapped emotions. If you haven't started releasing any of your trapped emotions yet, and you're middle-aged, then you probably have maybe 300 trapped emotions or more. I mean, depending on what you've been through, you might have more or you might have less. But every one of those is like a little dark cloud of energy in the body, a lower vibration, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we come into this world, for the most part, we have a pretty pristine, clear, clean energy field.
Maybe except for those.
Maybe some inherited things.
Yeah. Some of those preconception things that we bring along, right?
Yeah.
But probably don't have very many of those.
For the most part, we have a pretty clean energy field. And then we start developing things. We start experiencing life, and we start developing trapped emotions. And so you can think of the emotion code as a way to find and remove these little dark clouds of energy in the body. And as you start removing those, people so often feel lighter because they're starting to become lighter. They're becoming less attached to the low vibrations of this world, and they're
less
starting
encumbered.
To ascend, less encumbered.
Yeah.
And one of the most important things about the emotion code is, of course, about the heart.
Yeah.
Right. And how we found that when you feel like your heart is going to break, the subconscious mind will put up a wall around the heart, and that wall it's made of layers of your emotional baggage. And because the heart is really the core of your being and the seat of your soul, when you have a wall around it, and in fact, we think that about 93% of people in this world do have this phenomenon going on, right? And that's why the world, we think, is kind of in a mess. The more of those emotions you can remove, till finally when that wall is down and the heart now is open, people have told us that when that wall is taken down for the first time in their life, they can actually feel the love of the Creator for them. Love sometimes shows up in people's lives spontaneously. Even people who are really elderly suddenly fall in love. That happens. People that have creative ideas that start to flow spontaneously, because the best ideas you'll ever have are not going to come from here. They're going to come from your heart, right? And so this has been called the most important discovery in the history of energy medicine, because the effects can be so profound when that wall is taken down, and so many people have it and don't know. They've just gone through a couple of experiences in their life where they felt like their heart was going to break. And so now they've got a wall to protect the heart, because the heart is everything the ancients believed it to be, the core of our being and the seat of the soul and the source of love and creativity and romance and everything else.
And it's so sad that a lot of people don't know about that. What for life can they live when you can release it?
Well, that's why we're, bouncing all over the world trying to teach people.
Yeah. Do you know how many people you've taught yet?
Oh, that's a good question.
No idea. No idea.
With all the people that you've talked to online,
I've spoken to millions and millions of people online. I've done 1,500 interviews plus somewhere.
Wow.
Since the book came out, and spoken to as many as 20 million people at a time. So the fascinating thing is, now what we do is our company is called Discover Healing. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we do events both online and live and in person. We just finished an event in Frankfurt, for example. And part of what we do is we have online courses that people can take to really learn how to do this really, really well. And so, for example, with the Emotion Code, we've certified, it'll soon be 10,000 people in 80 countries plus around the world. And so, so the cat is out of the bag, in a sense, that, this information is out there now. And you're absolutely right. That is one of the most beautiful things about it. When I was writing the book, one of the things that we used to pray about together was we used to ask God to help us as the book was being written, so that the book would be easy to understand for anybody. It is. Right. And yeah, that's true. In fact, one of my favorite stories is a number of years ago, we were at an event, and there was a woman that told us this experience. She said that you okay?
Yeah, my stomach's grumbling.
That's okay. She said that she got the Emotion Code book and the book on audio and started reading it and listening to it. And her son started reading it and listening to it. And he started practicing with his friends. And she thought it was cute. But a couple of weeks later, the phone rang and she answered it. And the woman that was calling her told her that she was the mother of one of her son's friends. And she said that her son had this severe phobia of water. And they had tried everything for years and taken him to everybody they could ever think of to fix this. And nothing ever fixed it. And she said, right now I'm at the community pool and my son is out playing in the water with these other boys for the first time in his whole life. She said, your son did this. She said, how is this even possible? And those two boys are only 11, right? So that's how easy it can be. And yet, wow, it can change things.
Yeah. And I think every woman which had a difficult pregnancy should do the Emotion Code with the kids.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and everyone needs the Emotion Code because everyone has emotional baggage.
Every mother really needs to know how to help their children with the Emotion Code, because every child going through this world needs help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think on Lars, he broke his arm and it was a very painful experience for him. The surgery didn't went well. So he had too much pain. He needed morphium. And now he is very, can I walk there? And I have to do the Emotion Code with him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just an indispensable tool. One of the experiences that we had that I'll share raising kids was, we have twin boys and they're about 33 now, right? 33, 32. I think. And when they were about 4 years old, one of them was a real chatterbox and talked. And the other one hardly spoke at all. And he wouldn't speak in full sentences at all.
In fact, he would actually go like this and not let the words out. Mm-hmm. He would cover his mouth to prevent the words from coming out, because subconsciously he believed that his words would hurt other people.
Yeah, and we didn't know that then. We figured that out later. What happened was we worked on it one night. We were really just learning how all of this works. And when he was asleep, the subconscious mind never sleeps. So we went into his room and knelt down by the side of his bed and started doing some testing, talking to his subconscious mind, and found that he had an inherited emotion of anger from Jean's father, his grandpa. And we released that and a couple of other things. He never knew we worked on him, right? So then the next morning at breakfast, he would not stop talking. Remember that?
It was so dramatic.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious.
Wow.
She and I were just looking at each other like, this is unbelievable, right?
Right.
Is this possible?
Wow, that's so great.
Yeah. He knew how to speak.
Yeah,
He just
totally
wasn't
did.
letting it out.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We actually had taken him to get his hearing tested because we thought that maybe he wasn't able to hear.
Yeah.
But his hearing was perfect.
Yeah.
Oh,
A bit more water for you.
that's water.
I'm good. You can share.
Okay.
In my work, I work a lot with belief sentences.
Mhm.
And now I think, after reading your book and talking with you, that at first we have these emotions and the belief sentences are built on these emotions.
Oftentimes they are, or
Yeah.
they're connected in with them.
Mhm.
We're working on a new program right now called the Belief Code. So we have the emotion code, and then the body code builds on that, and then the belief code really builds on that. And yes, we've been doing that kind of work for a long time. And yeah, you're right. They can start with a trapped emotion, or a trapped emotion can anchor a belief into the body, so that you can't fix it or release it or change it until the trapped emotion's gotten rid of. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Can't wait for the program.
Yes. We're trying to make it so that just as easy as finding a trapped emotion, you can find trapped beliefs that are
That's
that are
good.
faulty
Yeah.
or in some way
Yeah.
impairing your progress.
Yeah, that's
So-
good. Good.
So they can be cleared.
Yeah, because when I work with these belief sentences, it's sometimes painful for the patient to think what happened then and then and then and then find out what the real reason is
Mhm.
for this belief.
Right.
A lot of people have tears in their eyes, and it's very painful. So
Yeah.
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah. Well, hang in there. Won't be too long.
I'm so grateful for this interview with you both. It was a great time for me, and a lot of very, very wonderful informations. And I hope that more people buy your book or buy your classes. I did your class right now online
Oh, good.
to help themselves, their families and friends, because it's a great tool. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you for having
Imke.
us.
Great to be here in your lovely home with you. This is a really special experience.
Thank you very much.
Ich hoffe sehr, dass dir das Gespräch gefallen hat und du einiges für dich mitnehmen konntest. Vielleicht hast du gemerkt, dass ich recht nervös war. Es war mein erstes Gespräch auf Englisch, was wir aufgenommen haben. Und Dr. Nelson kannte ich vorher noch nicht, obwohl er zauberhaft war und ganz, ganz toll mit der Situation umgegangen ist. Ich bedanke mich von Herzen für die Zeit, die du dir jetzt genommen hast, um uns zuzuhören oder zuzuschauen. Wünsche dir jetzt noch einen ganz zaubervollen restlichen Tag oder Abend. Ich freue mich sehr, wenn du meine Podcasts weiterempfiehlst und wenn du auch weiterhin in meine Podcasts hineinhörst. Alles Liebe für dich und danke aus tiefstem Herzen, deine Imke.